So thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I'm absolutely excited to do it, man. I love your channel. I've watched I think most of your videos, and I love it. Always good value.
That's
How long have you
that's
had this channel, David?
how long have I had the channel?
Yeah.
Um, I have actually had the channel for about 10 years,
Okay.
but but I didn't start vlogging. In other words, I wasn't regular till about 3 years ago.
All right. All right.
Yeah. So I
I
started
noticed.
the
I
channel.
noticed that most of your videos were within the last couple of years.
No, if you go to my videos and scroll all the way down, you'll see some that were 10 years ago.
Okay.
And
All
I've
right.
always kind of wandered, with my performance. And when I started the vlog, I was transitioning from doing illusions to doing mentalism. And so the earlier vlog posts you'll see, I think I did a show for Goucher College, and I took a lot of those clips and just posted them to see what people would do. And actually, my presentation of the zigzag probably has more hits than any other video I've ever posted. And
Oh
that was
wow.
long before I was vlogging, long before I was doing this regular. And then I did a show where I didn't do any performance whatsoever. It was a lecture. And I posted clips from that lecture. And that was early stuff too. And that was very esoteric. And so I was getting a lot of, shall we say, ideologically dogmatic people
Yeah.
commenting on my content. So that was interesting. And then I made the decision. I've told the story a few times on the blog, but my mother passed away in 2015. My dad, shortly thereafter, got very sick with Alzheimer's disease, and it kind of drove home to me the idea that time is finite. So I decided to take everything I've been studying for the last 50 years and sort of start sticking it out there. And that was my motivation. And at first I had 10 subscribers, and then I had 20, and then I had 100, and then I had 500. And then there sort of an audience developed. This guy named Mexi came along, and he has a group that's pretty active. And so a lot of people came on board, and it's been a really good experience. People comment, seems like they comment every time I post, and it's been great. It's been rich. So
Yeah, that's good, man. That's why I wanted to reach out. I wanted you to be part of our group. I mean, like I said, I love your channel, and I watched I watched you talk. I talk about your journey from trying to find assistance and trying to find while you had your illusion show, and then transitioning over into minimalism, and and the kind of stuff that you had. I grew up in the church. My father's a minister, so I grew up in the church, and I really related to a lot of the things that you said. And something I definitely wanted you in, as a part of the Pensacola Magic and Mystery Club for sure.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I have seen the power of readings and what it can do for people's lives, and you have the ability to genuinely help people get over things, get through things, and to really add value to their lives. Now I kind of take the Paul Vudini kind of his take on it. I look at the way he talks about it. The hit rating for people that are doing it without a system in place, without understanding the way we understand it. Their hit rating is 35-40%. They're not very accurate, and oftentimes, I mean, when I've watched, I don't get into mediumship or anything like that, but they're those that believe in themselves and really believe what they're doing, their hit rating is extremely low. It's not something, obviously, mentalists would not be comfortable with that. But I think approaching it from a system, I don't like the term cold reading, but it's just reading. We have more in common than we do, that's not common. And so I think there's a lot of value in it. And people they have so much faith. They put so much stock into that, or they don't. And I think, you know, you have to work within the parameters of that person's belief system. And if you're willing to do that and you're flexible enough to do that, I mean, I'm here in the Bible Belt, so those kind of things are, you know, they're definitely frowned upon.
Yeah, yeah.
But for me, you know, one of the reasons I delved into a lot of that stuff was to kind of understand, because I grew up in, you know, in a really religious home, and there wasn't an understanding of how these things worked or any of that other kind of stuff. So for me, you know, luckily curiosity did not kill the cat, but it was really just about being curious. I wanted to understand, how does this work? And of course, once you start to get into it and understand how it works, I mean, then your whole worldview opens up.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah, I
know,
think so too. I do. Yeah. Between you, I think all of it's relevant. I mean, there are people that watch the vlog that I can tell you there are people that watch the vlog that are pretty genuine in their practice of the psychic arts and in magic.
right.
They do. And then there are others that watch that are completely skeptical and think it's
Yeah,
all bogus. But I think the discussion's healthy. I think it's
100%.
no matter where you fall in the spectrum, I think having that discussion is a healthy thing. So I
Well,
enjoy.
you know, I was talking to you earlier about, and I sent you some of the responses that my guys are having in this private group where I'm working on minimalism and education and medicine. And I work my full time work that I do is just in consulting, and I consult in those areas. And so I've got this group of guys that I'm working with now, and you know, the power of readings in that is, I mean, it can't be overstated. I mean, it is so profound. And so even with the guys that, you know, I'm working with they're all magicians. They most of them have been in it for 20, 30 years. They've been doing it a long time. Um, but you know, they're still stunned, you know, and I'll do a reading just like this with them, talking with them, and you know, that's so right. How did you know that? You know, and that connection allows us to, well, in hypnosis terms, right? It allows us to bypass the critical factor. It allows us to get right past those psychological walls and fences that people put up, earn trust really, really fast, and to be able to connect on levels that, you know, professional therapists or other things, they don't have that skill set. And so as mentalists, as people who do readings in a systematic way, we have a really unique skill set to fundamentally alter the structure of people's subjective reality. And that's powerful stuff. You know, I mean, that's something that I wish more people understood and were into. I know that guys like Paul, like I said, Paul Budini, who's doing a lecture for us in October, and guys like Luke Germain, you know, those kind of guys that their focus is on those things and that connection, creating moments of awe, you know, just these moments of, you know, I think we have to be entertaining, but I'm not myself very interested in entertainment, you know, and performing just to entertain people. That's really not something that I'm very interested in. For me, it's about the power that we have. It's about doing well through doing good and making, you know, a real difference in the world around us. I think that's key. And we have a unique skill set. We have something that, you know, there's just not a lot of us, you know, really, when you think about it. And we have the ability to connect. We have the ability to command mystery. And that is, oh man, I mean, if that doesn't bring a smile to your face, I don't know what does. You know, we have in some cases, the way that we do it, I mean, to create small miracles. And that is, I mean, that's everything to me.
Yeah. Hey, one of the things I like to ask people when I'm doing, and I have the privilege of having the opportunity to speak to another person who's doing magic or doing mentalism. I'd love to hear your story. Love to hear how you got started, as far back as you can go. Who inspired you? What started your interest? Who were your influences? Those kinds of questions.
Sure. Well, starting out really young, I was into the internal martial arts, the Chinese arts, and I ended up going into the private security and contracting field. And excuse me, I don't know how much I want to go into all that, but I ended up working for oil companies and some different things like that. And I worked in security and in intelligence. And I ran into conversational hypnosis and some of these other concepts. My father-in-law was an NLP practitioner who, back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, with Richard Bandler and John Grinder. And so I had some experience with that. And then during that time in my later 20s, I went through some hypnotherapy with him, and it made a profound difference in my life. It really, some things that I was struggling with, some things that were holding me back and causing some things in my life that really did not need to be there, vanished, just vanished. And to me, that was, oh man, that was miraculous. So I started getting more into conversational or covert hypnosis, things like that, being able to, again, I'd never messed with magic at all. And then in my mid to late 30s, there was a shop in Little Rock called Mr. Magic, run by Jim Henson. And the shop was just fantastic. And I went in and originally just kind of took my kids in there and started talking to Jim and told him, what I was doing, and told him I was into, I was a hypnotist and I wanted to see what was going on. And he introduced me to, well, he introduced me to a few people. He introduced me to Richard Osterlin, and I got to check out some of his work, and introduced me to Paul Voudini's work, and of course Anneman, but through Osterlin. Yeah, and of course Richard Webster. And once I really connected with Richard's work. I really I saw the value in it. I saw the value in my personal in my work, in my professional life. I saw that I could use this. So I got divorced. I lived in Orlando for a long time, and I went to New York, and I got divorced. And at that time, I was, contracting, traveling, that was no longer an option for me. I needed to do something different. I was going to be, wasn't going to have a wife to take care of the kids around, so I needed to do something different. And I went into rent to own business, and that is it's a, well, being realistic, it's a pretty shady business. But you do a lot of repossessions, things like that, and I needed to be able to communicate, and I ended up running collections regionally, and I had about 5 states that I was running. And I cannot tell you how valuable being able to do a reading, being able to connect in a really deep way was. I mean, it was really profound. And there was, trying to think how I want to phrase that, but you're connecting with people that, generally speaking, they don't have a high level of education. They tend to be extremely superstitious. So when you brought some of this magic and mentalism into it, it really changed the nature of your relationship with them. And while I ran that, we ran the #1 collections in the entire United States, and I had one of the lowest repo rates, simply because I was able to communicate in a really effective way, connect with my customers. And so it just kind of grew from there. And as I started to see the power of it, I started to become more and more interested. And so those were the original guys. And then of course I looked at magic. Dan Harlan, as far as magic is, man, he is just absolutely one of my favorite guys. I don't know him yet, but that's on my list. I'm gonna be friends with Dan for sure. But I loved his magic. But for me, it was just mentalism. And mentalism was something that was very practical for me. And then how I got into it more full time was I was still doing that business, but I was really dissatisfied because, again, there's a lot to that business that is not enjoyable. So at that time, I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I got a call from. I was also teaching privately. I was teaching Tai Chi and Bagua, which is another internal art. And I got a call from a Dr. Renee Dawson, who runs the Superior Success Academies there in that area. And she said, hey, listen, I've got some things going on. I'd like you to come in and speak to my students. I've got some things going on with the Department of Career Rehabilitation Services with the state. I'd like you to come in and speak at the college and different things. And so I did. The kids loved it. I loved it, and that really shifted my focus. Then
were you delivering? Were you doing mentalism, or were you doing readings, or were you doing a motivational speech?
Mostly it was motivational. It was about personal empowerment, that kind of thing. But there was a blend there. I would use, as far as connecting, I was using readings, which I consider the purest form of mentalism. I mean, I
Now, when
believe
you
it
were
was
doing
Corinda who
readings,
said,
were you doing palmistry, or were you doing looking at people and doing readings that way?
I was looking at people. I used with the internal arts. There's a lot about energy, a lot about chi, and so the framing that I was using there was about energy.
Okay.
And I still do a lot of that right now. A lot about bioenergetics, that kind of thing. And so when I'm working with people and I'm doing therapy with them, that kind of thing, I still use that framing because I believe in it. You know, I mean, it's not a matter of, yes, it's a framing, yes, there's a structure to it, but I'm a genuine believer in these things as well. And so I would do that.
I think it helps. I think it helps to believe in what you're doing.
100%. I mean,
It helps.
you even read, you've got to have that internal script going. Well, if
Now,
you genuinely believe it, that internal script exists without working on it.
now, I have some martial arts background. I studied Kung Fu for a period of years and Tai Chi.
Okay.
I'm a little unfamiliar with where you're going exactly. How does that relate to, say, aura reading?
Well, you've got Qigong, right, which is energy work. So the ability to make a suggestion, to be able to do PK touches that are psychological in nature versus, mechanical. So those kind of things, are able to, you're able to use those. So in Tai Chi, you have the preparation form, correct? And you have this here. Well, you also heard in Qigong about holding the ball.
Right.
And so I would have them, I'd have them work with being able to feel and sense that energy between their hands. And then I'd have them take the preparation form stance and then have them think of it an emotion. I want you to think of something that makes you quite sad. Feel the weight distribution change, the energy of emotion and the energy of that emotion, how it changes. Then I'd have them expand their senses, which you're familiar with in Tai Chi as well. We're visual creatures, right? So everything follows the sense of sight to expand the peripherals and allow to see what they began to see, what they wouldn't be able to see before, to catch movement that they normally wouldn't be able to catch, to be able to hear sound that they were not conscious of before, even to the point of being able to feel the air against their skin. And so it was really about it was about that mind-body unity. And there's other exercises that I would run them through, but to shift from one emotion to the next and then to expand. And I would always say something like, you can't hold on when you just let go, that kind of thing. But to be able to feel how the shift of intention has such a powerful impact on your body, and how the mind and the body are so connected in ways that, most people just aren't familiar with. And the way that connected with magic for me in mentalism was that our best understanding of our subjective reality is 5 layers, right? It's the physical layer, the intellectual layer, the emotional layer, which is the driver of all of our behaviors, the symbolic layer, and the 5th and most important is really the intentional layer, the attentional layer, what we're paying attention to. And when you change, when you tweak one part of that, when you mess with one strand of that fabric, you fundamentally alter it. And so I could use that as a way to tweak to tweak that fabric, to alter those things. And what happens is so profound in people's lives that things that they once believed they no longer believe, or things that they didn't believe they now believe. Um, Things that they've held on to, they're able to let go of. Things that were huge in their life become small things. Things that were small become large. And to be able to control that and be able to manipulate that, I know that's a kind of a dirty word, manipulate, but that's, let's be real. Um, as long as you're, I think as long as you're doing that with good intentions, with the right motives in place, and you're not messing with things obviously that you shouldn't be. I, that's how I saw it all connecting. And for me, it made sense. It worked. And again, they loved it. I worked with a lot of kids with learning disabilities, things like that. And to see them go from struggling to make a C to easily making A's, man, I mean, that was it. I mean, that's better than any drug, right?
That's a really unique story of entering into magic. I mean, at least once you departed from Mr. Magic, the shop in Little Rock, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's, I mean, it's unique. It really is. So you're doing this college work, you're doing work with schools,
Yeah.
and where do you go from there?
So I just started consulting more and more. I started consulting with different business owners. The word kind of got around, hey, look, this guy can mess with your mind in ways that they're going to really be a benefit for you. So I started working with business owners. I worked with a lot of soldiers, different people who had PTSD, people that were dealing with anxiety issues, things like that. And it just started to grow from there. And then about 2 months ago, I moved to Pensacola, and I'd never been involved with the magic community. No one knew my name, anything like that. Um, but I just decided, I didn't have a network here. I didn't really know anyone here. So I needed to make contact, and I reached out to a local club, and through them, I met a couple of really, really great guys. You've got Al Grimm, who's an outstanding children's performer, older guy, and he was just, man, what a gem! What a gem! He's till the day he goes, he's going to be one of my closest friends before I go. But he is just 100% one of my favorite guys, and he was really instrumental in making sure I met some other people, and from there, it started to grow. Unfortunately, of this particular club was not very children friendly, and I've got kids that are into magic, and they were getting together only once a month, not doing very much magic, and that wasn't good. So I started a weekly group so everybody could kind of get together and jam, and they threw me out and my kids out of the club.
They did.
Yeah, they sure did.
You started the group and they threw you out.
I started a group and they threw me out. So I said, okay, that's fine, no big deal. Let's go ahead and just run with what we've got. So we're now at the. Of course, a lot of our guys are in Europe. There's Magic is huge in England and over there. So I've got a lot of people internationally in the club, as you well know. Um, but we're at almost 400 members now in just 2 months' time, and I've got a club starting at a local middle school that one of the teachers is sponsoring there. So yeah, it's really continued to grow, and now I've got this kind of leads into some other things. I decided to show some of the things that I've been working on. I got a hold of Richard Webster and told him about this reading tool that I've been developing, and that I'd base some of that on his work. And he got back to me and said, "Hey, man, I love the idea, and he and I are going to begin communicating more on that project and start working on that." And then I had the Acon Kiss, and I've been interested in an any card, any number effect. I liked it from the standpoint of I do cartomancy, and so I liked it from the standpoint of being able to connect the the celestial mathematics and everything with the readings and the whole deal. And I was doing one day I was performing, or I was prepping for a performance, and I saw this. This method, this idea came to my mind. So I showed a couple of people, and man, they were like, what's happening right now? You know, and I knew I was onto something. And so I got hold of Ryan Mentis. He's in our group as well. He's a mentalist blogger, and you can find his work at mentalistblogger.com, I believe. Anyway, I got hold of Ryan, and I showed Ryan, and we had a little video jam session, and he said, "Hold on just a second," and he called Peter Turner, and Peter got on the phone, and then we ended up jamming for about an hour and a half. And Pete and I really hit it off. And so I got hold of him a few days later, and he had some amazing ideas, obviously. And I said, "Hey, Pete, why don't you work with me on this project?" And he said, "Yeah." So we've got I also got hold of Barry over at Black Cat Magic, and I really, man, what a aces this guy! What a great guy. And told him what we had going on. He jumped on it. He said, "Hey man, I'd love to produce this." And so that'll be out in just a couple of weeks. We decided to release it as a PDF instead of a book, so we could move through things a little bit faster. There's a lot of issues, obviously, with the mail system over there, and that was just a lot less headache for everyone involved. So that'll be out in a couple of weeks. And things have just really kind of grown from there. I mean,
the book, is it going to cover, by the way, ACAN, as you refer to it, any card at any number?
Yes.
Right? Any card at any number. Is this book going to, is it going to be comprehensive, covering lots of different methods, or is it going to present the method you've just come up with?
It's going to be, so the ACON KISS stands for any card at any number, keep it super simple. And it's just going to cover that particular method, but it is going to cover subtleties within that method and multiple presentation items.
Okay, great.
And but it's just going to stick with that method. I didn't want to venture into the realm of stepping on anybody else's toes or, anything like that. One of the things I did with Peter first was to say, "Hey, look, you've got a vast knowledge of the any card at any number plot. Please take a look at this and see if you've seen anyone else do anything like it, because obviously I don't want to bring it out. This is my first offering to the Magic community. I do have 3 or 4 coming right behind this, but I wanted to make sure." And again, card magic, that kind of thing, I'm just going to be really honest with you. I'm not very interested in it. I don't do very much of it. Most of the stuff I do, I want it to be self-working. I want it to happen in the spectator's hands. I don't want to
both.
Yeah. I don't want them to think it's sleight of hand. I don't want it to be seen as trickery. And but I figured this was a great way to connect with the community. This was a way to introduce myself to the community. And of course, let's be real. I mean, introducing yourself in Conjunction with Pete Turner, not a bad thing.
This is true. So I had some notes here about Alakazam. Are you going to market through Alakazam, or is that deal not happening?
No, I'm not. I'm not doing anything with Alakazam. I do want to talk about Wayne Goodman.
Okay.
Wayne Goodman, man, another guy what a good human being. So he saw what I was doing when the club was only at like 15 members. And he reached out to me and he said, "Jon, I love what you're doing. I love the vision that you're putting out there. How can I help you? I'd love to do a free lecture for your group. What can I do to give you a hand?" And I said, man, I was stunned. And I said, "Well, of course, I'd love it." Now, his lecture actually is going to be on September the 19th. We still have spots open for anyone that wants to register for that. It is the PMMC lectures at outlook.com. They can register for that. It doesn't cost them anything. Most of our lectures will cost something, but $5 or something. We wanted to make this really accessible. Anyway, Wayne, he took a look at what I was doing as well. And when I ended up connecting with Peter, Wayne's first thing was, "Hey, look, if you're connected with Peter, do this with Peter." And of course, that's exactly what I'm doing. And then I met with Barry. I had a chance to speak with Barry really first before I didn't have a chance to speak with Peter Nardi over at Alakazam. He was very, very busy. And so when I spoke to Barry, there was no chance I was going with anyone else. He's unbelievably supportive of his creators. It's a small company, but he's so supportive of his creators. He's such a
Barry runs Black Cat Magic.
That's right. I believe his last name is Fazakalery, but I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's known as Baz to his friends, and I mean that's what I call him. But yeah, what an amazing guy! And we structured a deal that was more than fair, for me especially. And I just can't say enough about these guys. I mean, anyway, when Wayne decided to do that, when Wayne put his reputation, when he put his energy into the club, and people saw that, I immediately started, names within the business started joining the club.
The club you're referring to is the Pensacola Magic and Mystery Club.
That is correct.
But it's not restricted to people who live in Pensacola.
Not at all.
It's pretty much worldwide.
It is worldwide. I wanted to start a club, really. Since they kicked me out of this other club and they kicked my kids out, I just wanted to create a group of guys. And some of the guys from that club decided to come on over with us. And, the invitation remained open for me, from my standpoint, for those other guys to always join in and to be a part. But I just wanted something that, would keep my kids interested.
If I ask why? I mean, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, but why did they kick you out of your own club?
Well, I'm going to say this as diplomatically as possible, but the gentleman that ran it, and I won't say the name of the club or any names or anything like that, but he'd always been in charge of everything, always, and most of the guys that are there are much older, late 60s, early 70s. Not all of them, but most of them. And when I came in with a great deal of energy and and excitement. And I don't think he appreciated that very much. They were real used to doing things one way once a month. And I went to their meeting, and there was maybe 15 minutes of magic, in it. And I've got a 13-year-old daughter who's into this, and in a minute I'll get to another awesome thing that Wayne did for her as well. And then I've got a 20-year-old son, and he likes coin magic, and that sounds great. I know he's got all of Danny Goldsmith's stuff, Eric Jones, he's got David Ross stuff, and of course he has Bobo's book. So yeah, I mean, he likes it. Now he works full time. I mean, he's very, very busy. So how much time he has to put into it, is what time he has. But I just wanted to create a group where my kids would be comfortable and where other kids could feel comfortable coming and learning magic. And again, I'll go back to Al Grimm. Huge support that I got from him, and he was really influential in helping me get this set up and supporting me. Tony Miller is another magician, and he's not a working pro. He's I don't like the term hobbyist at all, but it is his passion. It is his hobby. He's big into minimalism. He has also been instrumental in the Pensacola Magic and Mystery Club. I can't say enough about this guy either. I've just found such a great group of men that have supported and put so much energy into it. This club wouldn't be anything like what it is without the energy that these guys have put in. And then, go ahead.
The club is the Pensacola Magic and Mystery Club. And if people want to join, what's the mechanism for that?
It exists on Facebook. And so all they need to do, it's a public club. Anyone can join. There's no written rules for the club. It is a place where I expect positivity. And we only post about magic. There's nothing political or religious or anything of the kind. I've only had a couple of people who have done negative things on there. I've spoken to them privately. I've removed those posts. But generally speaking, 99.9% of everything on there, it's family friendly. There's nothing racy. There's nothing that you wouldn't want. I mean, there's nothing I wouldn't want my children around. I like to think that everyone would feel the same way. It's just a positive place where we can support each other, where if you have something that you're working on and you want some advice from it, I mean, consulting fees are high. So, you know, I mean, I know that my personal fee is quite high. And so, you know, but I wanted a place where if you had something that you were working on and you know it wasn't 100%, you know that it needs something. I wanted you to be able to post, hey guys, I'm working on this. Anyone willing to help me out? Give me some ideas. I wanted a place where we could come together. We could enjoy, we could crack some jokes, we could share performances, but just a free place. You could learn some magic, you could get some help, you could get some direction, whatever. And I also, like I said, I've got this club starting at a middle school here. All those details aren't ironed out, so I won't go too far into that. But I wanted to have that supported by a group of working pros. I wanted to have that supported so that I could give these kids free access to our lecture courses. You know, I wanted them to understand how this art is. It covers stagecraft and writing and English composition, and there's so much. There's team building. There's so much that goes on in magic. It covers so many disciplines that affect education that it's something I wanted to incorporate into the school system. And so that, luckily, it looks like that's moving forward. And in that, I wanted it to be supported by guys like Wayne Goodman, by guys like by Paul Houdini, who's doing our stuff in October. And I wanted them to have access to all these different kinds of things. Some of our speakers will be magic. Some of them will be minimalism. Some of them are going to be kind of out there. I like Paul's stuff, but let's be real. It's pretty out there, for most people. I'm a huge fan, and that's partly why we have him second. But yeah, I mean, this was something that they can get through it. Let me circle back around. They can get to it through Facebook. It's easy to join. Look it up. Again, Pensacola Magic and Mystery Club. Just join it. I try to get to everybody individually and welcome them to the club, but I'll be really honest. In just the last week and a half, 2 weeks, we've had 150 new members join.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So I have not obviously been able to do it with work and trying to get these projects finished and out and scheduled. I haven't been able to do that, but yeah, what a great group of guys. I mean, so supportive. It's really, really good stuff. And then, of course, I'm busy with it's just a Facebook club called Minimalism for Improvement, where I'm teaching a few guys how to do this, how to use minimalism in conjunction with some hypnotherapeutic style techniques I've developed and things. But yeah, busy times.
Yeah. So I don't think we talked about the mind in medicine.
Yeah, I guess we kind of touched on it a little bit in some of the other things, but yeah, that's a private group that that's really where my passion is: medicine, education. A couple of things about it. It's an untapped market. So I'm not going to get into religious stuff or whatnot, but I think way back, I think that the ritualistic side of magic and the conjuring side that we do, I originally think that was one thing. And we obviously see with the Catholic Church and whatnot, that schism between those things. And I think that we as the, cup and ball style magician can learn a great deal from the theatrical elements of ritualistic magic. And ritualistic magic can benefit greatly from a lot of our methodology. So I was really interested in what magic used to be when it was shamans, when it was that shamanistic style of magic. more of a wizardry, if you will. I don't know how else to say that, but when those two schools were one, that for me is an intriguing idea. And so I knew what the power of hypnotherapy. I knew the power of our mind and our imagination, what we're able to do with that. And I also understood the power of magicians, the mentalists, to be able to command mystery. And the ability to quickly bypass, as I said earlier, quickly bypass the critical factor, quickly bypass those walls that people have put up psychologically, the ability to connect really, really quickly. Paul Brook did an interview once, and he talked about that in his stuff. He was a hypnotherapist who ended up speaking with a magician, and I believe it was the invisible deck that he learned. And he talked about just that simple thing, being able to connect him so quickly. So instead of taking a month to connect with a client, he was able to, or a patient, he was able to do it in a single session. And he saw the power of magic. And I had that very same experience to see, I think the biggest critique of the medical community is it's cold and clinical. And, but realistically, there's so much ritual involved. If you've got cancer, the last thing the doctor really needs to do is test your reflexes on your knee when you're there. But that's exactly what he's going to do because it's part of the ritual, but they are, it's very cold, it's very clinical. We have the ability to connect and to connect extremely fast. The reality is the belief that I have and I deeply hold, and the evidence is there to back it up. We have the ability to command the placebo nocebo effect. In a different lexicon, we can bless, we can curse. People believe in what we do. And that belief is extremely, extremely powerful. And there's thousands and thousands of cases in the medical journals of the placebo effect, of how potent it is, and conversely, the nocebo effect. And so for me, that became my driving force. Hey, how do I engage with that as simply, as directly as possible? And then once I found effective methods to be able to do that consistently, then the what has become and what is now my the few things that I'm going to be bringing out. The Acon Kiss is the first thing. The second is a reading tool, not a reading system. It is a reading tool, and it is to get people to actually start doing readings instead of learning system after system after system and then never doing it, but to actually get people into the practice of doing it. The things I have coming out on the back of that are methodologies to teach people exactly how to do this, to be able to get in there and dramatically influence not just what's happening inside someone's mind, psychological conditions and things like that, but on a physical level, to be able to take away pain and things that exist that really improve people's lives. That's the driving passion, the driving force. I don't think any magician is going to die thinking, oh man, I wished I would have found one more card at one more number. I just don't think that's going to happen. No. But to be able to say, hey, look, people's lives around me are better because I lived. Yeah. Man, that's a life worth living. And we have a chance to create miracles in people's lives, to bring real joy and benefit and health and love and mercy and kindness. And what else is there? I do that for free.
Yeah, I want to circle back to two things before we run out of time here. One, you said you like the ritual aspects of magic, going back before theatrical magic, the shamanistic period. Yeah. You might want to take a look, if you haven't done so already, take a look at the whole genre of bizarre magic.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of the bizarrists are focused there and doing that. I mean, bizarre can be a pretty broad definition, but in my mind, a bizarrist is bringing a lot of meaning to magic because they're doing it from that perspective. They're looking at their magic and thinking, how can I present this in a way that's meaningful, that connects people? And so they rely on story, they rely on ritual, they rely on tradition. So it's a lot of them are doing that kind of thing. I don't know that Paul Rudini fits into that category, but he might. He might.
I think for sure. I mean, his books are really good. They definitely are more into the spiritualism.
Yeah.
His stuff on seance work and things are just outstanding. Um, yeah, I see that. There are lots of guys out there. The 1914 has some interesting stuff that they're doing. I like a lot of their work, and going all the way back to like Tony Andruzzi, I believe his last name was. Yeah,
Tony Andruzzi, one of the fathers of bizarre magic.
absolutely. And Richard Webster's stuff is pretty esoteric. You know, a lot of his stuff is real esoteric. I like, again, that is what I'm drawn to. If I can do magic without any form of trickery, I prefer to do it. That's why I like palm reading. That's why I like cartomancy. I like those. I like tarot. I like all of that. Um, you know, for me, I love palm reading especially because you've got a crib right here for you to look at anytime you want. And there's something so intimate about, talking about what's happening to that person. It's so special. And, you're able to, hold their hand, look right in their eyes and talk to them about things. So that's really where I like to. I don't do a lot of billet work. I mean, I can, but I don't do a lot of billet work. I don't do, I just don't do a lot of traditional magic tricks. And in my repertoire, I try to keep it to just really 15, 20 things that I do and try to do well. And something that I can apply in different contexts. Context is everything, I think, in magic. I'm not really interested. You're never going to see me palm a card. I'm not a technically proficient magician by any stretch of the imagination. I think most magicians would find me quite boring, to watch. I'm not there to perform for them. The stuff that I do is real people, real lives. I want to work with soldiers. I want to work with teachers. I want to work with kids. I want my magic to have meaning. And they don't care, what my past looks like. I'd like to see that. There's people that are doing things right now that, it just blows my mind, and I've studied, I've bought some different things, and I've, because I'm interested in methods like any magician, I'm just as curious as the next guy. And so some of the things that you see people do, man, I mean, even my son is big into Danny Goldsmith, and man, you see him doing some of his stuff, he blows me away, just blows me away. It's not something that I'm going to put time and energy into learning it. I mean, I'm 43 in like 2 weeks, and I'm super busy and focused into the areas that I'm into, and the work that I'm doing. But man, what these guys can do, it just stunning stuff. And part of the thing I wanted about the Pensacola Magic and Mystery Club was sort of a hive mind, a collective of people that, hey, I'm working on this. What do you guys have? And to be able to connect people in ways that they might not otherwise have connected. I think there's a sort of a famous scripture that says, you have not because you ask not. And I have been quick to just ask, hey, man, I want to meet this person. Will you meet me? Hey, I want to have a conversation with you about this. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, and some of them have said no. But for the most part, people have been extremely, and I reached out to Richard Webster. Man, I mean, this guy is a big influence on me, and I really, really admire him. And I reached out to him. Man, this guy could not have been nicer. Yeah. Could not have been more open and kind. And then when I pitched my idea out to him, he was so complimentary. And man, I have found that being open and forward and direct about the things that you wanted gets you a lot of times what you want. And that's really why I started this club. In part, obviously, I wanted a place where people could actually get together and do magic. And we have a weekly jam session here. We get together. There's a place we get together for coffee. and every Saturday we get together and we just jam magic for a little bit. If there's people around the restaurant, it's a diner, but if people around the diner, they want to see something, I'm happy to show them, and hang out. But yeah, we just get together and jam. What are you working on? How do sometimes we don't help each other because we're just there to kind of just show off to each other and have a good time. But most of the time it's, hey man, I've found this, it's really interesting, and what do you think? And so a lot of good debate. It's just a fun place to be. And then on Sundays I have again that private group, but those guys are spread out all. I've got them in England and all over the US. So that's a spread out group. It's a small group, but it's spread out everywhere. So that happens. We do that via Facebook Messenger, and I do a group chat with them for an hour, 2 hours every Sunday, and we work on that. But yeah,
great. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
No, but I would like to edit in this real quick story about Wayne Goodman.
Go ahead.
So do you know Magic Maisie? Magic Maisie, she's 13-year-old she's a pro. She's really good. Maisie Parker, I believe is her last name.
I'll take a look.
Yeah.
Magic Maisie.
Yeah, she's outstanding. So, not a lot of young girls in Magic, and not a lot of youth in this area in Magic. Not a lot of young girls. But when Wayne found out that my 13-year-old daughter was interested, man, he made it a mission. So I'm part of a private kind of just chat every day kind of group with, I don't know how many of us are in America, and I don't think very many. Most of us are not in the U.S. I think it's primarily UK based. There's some guys from Greece and whatnot in it, but it's a really fun little group. And he set my daughter up with Maisie, and they became fast friends and talk regularly. But that idea of being able to connect, that idea of putting people together, that idea of building community and family, man, and I appreciated it so much. It was so kind of him to do that, for both our families. And so that's another story that's coming out of the Pensacola Magic and Mystery Club. Just one more story. I could tell you 30 stories of just awesome things, and people that were lonely, people that needed a group, people that needed to be able to connect, that just they've direct messaged me and just said, hey man, thank you so much for starting this group. I really love being here. I really love interacting with everyone, so I'm overjoyed. To me, I'm feel truly blessed, and can't believe we're at almost 400 members in what, 8 weeks, something like that. So yeah, it's really, really great, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. I will say also, the group that we have in the minimalism in medicine and for just general improvement. Now, what we're doing is we are collecting anecdotal evidence over the next year. But honestly, we're getting so much, we might not even have to wait a year. And we're going to publish a book with all the anecdotal evidence of all the different, I don't want to say treatments, that's probably not the best word, but all the different phenomenon that has happened as a result of this work. The people that we're working with that are having anything from physical issues, physical illnesses, to mental health issues. And we'll be publishing a book that has all these stories in it and all this anecdotal evidence, because I think that is the future of where we're going to. I think minimalism will move more and more into things like that. I think we have the ability, as with reading, you do tarot, and the power that has to impact people's lives. I mean, you don't want them to make huge decisions on things, but they will make some pretty big decisions based on a reading you're giving out of cards. We have a deep responsibility there, and I think effective training and knowing what you're doing with that and being able to do that in a positive way that really uplifts people's lives is really important. And I see magic moving more and more in that direction, especially with the way things are going right now. Economically, people are going to find a lot less work, in the form of entertainment. But people always need to lead better lives. People always need to be healed. People always need that, regardless of those things. And I think that we'll see magic move more and more in that direction. If I have anything to say about it, it definitely.
Terrific. Well, listen, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
David, it has been my pleasure, buddy. Again, so grateful for the opportunity, and so glad you're a member of the Pensacola Magic and Mystery Club, my friend.
Glad to be.
Yeah.
Glad to
Thank
be.
you again, buddy.
Yeah, listen, I'm going